Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. Today's episode, I am so excited because I have talked to Olga and Joe, although Joe is not here with us, from the Caring Instinct in the past about our unschooling journey. And today we're here to share about their work in a fantastic course that I wish I had when we started our journey, and it's about housework and how to get your children involved and how to strengthen those relationships through the common work that we all have to do to live together, right? So, without further ado, Olga, welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. How are you?
Hi, Julieta. So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Before we dive into the course, would you share a little bit about the Caring Instinct and who you guys are and how your work started in like helping other parents to be their best selves?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Joe is a family therapist and he practices compassionate inquiry.
Okay.
Um, and I am a teacher, and we are both parents of young children. He's got a girl and a boy, and I've got two boys.
Hmm.
I've got a toddler and an 8-year-old.
Yes.
And we met as students at the Newfield Institute, as students of attachment and development. And we thought, oh, we should do something together.
Yes.
And yeah, we started a parent support group
Okay.
that was such joy to run. And then the caring instinct appeared first as a podcast, and then now we've got some webinars and some one-to-one support for parents, and we've got our course.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about that because I remember when I started homeschooling,
Mm,
it was the transition of, the boys being in school or my oldest son and then being at home. And then I felt a very clear division of if I couldn't like I had to do the housework or I had to be with them. It felt like I couldn't do both, you know,
yes.
and it was because I wanted to do it all fast and have it all done and be done with that. And I was like, and then slowly I found my way into more, what gets done gets done. And they were still like there, but I wasn't fully allowing them almost to help me, if that makes sense. I was like, I have to
Mm,
get it all done. I gotta get through this, and then slowly, obviously, as my beliefs and our journey evolved, I realized that was, by allowing them or by giving them the space to participate, then that's how we were able to connect further, right? So it was such a gift to see that, But I want to know, how did you get started, from all because you have different webinars. How did you come up to this is the topic that we want to, spend some time developing and putting all the tools that we know as, from our work
mm.
experience. How do you say this is what we see that the need is for parents?
That is such a good question. And there are really several routes
Okay.
of our Housework for Children course. So first of all, yes, where do I start? Our idea, our sort of main mission is to make parenting sustainable. It's such
Yeah.
a boring word, but it's my favorite word ever because we've got so much parental burnout.
Yes,
And
yes,
it's the long run. It's a long game. We're like,
yes,
once we're parents really. It doesn't end. So it's got to be sustainable.
yes.
We think, oh, we'll just get through these intense years with a toddler, but then there are other intense years with a teenager and so on and so forth.
Sustainable. I really like that work actually too, because our energy some doesn't always, we don't always keep going. Like when we have that burst of creativity or something, our energy fades. So so you have to come back and recharge sometimes. And when you as a parent are just going, 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 the energy, it's definitely not sustainable to keep your house afloat as a one person, as just one person.
Exactly. Yes, or as a
Hmm.
couple. And housework can be so draining. You say to get it done, but it's never done. They
No.
used to say a woman's work is never done, the phrase that I hate wholeheartedly, because
Hmm.
the reason it's never done is because it's the woman's work, right?
Exactly.
So it's much better when it's the couple's work, but
Hmm.
it's even better when it's everyone's work.
Yes.
And when we find some play and meaning in this work,
Hmm. Hmm.
then it's not so grinding.
Yes.
So, yeah, so really, what we find is in our Western world, we are divided. The children and the parents live very, very separate lives. In
Yes.
the same space, we live
Hmm.
very separate lives. The children live lives in which we think they should not even play, but be entertained to
Hmm.
play, be played with, and they should be educated.
Hmm.
And entertained and educated is their path to future success. At first, we think we should sit with our toddler on the carpet for hours and play blocks.
Yes.
That is unsustainable.
No.
No, not unless it's joyful for you as well, and you really have loads of time for that. But if you're sat there thinking, "Oh my God, well, he's gonna be grumpy in a moment because he's hungry. I've got to go make dinner, but I've also got to be his best playmate," and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happens is we bring the screens in, or screens creep in. It's impossible not to as entertainment. And I'm not anti-screens, just I'll say that to start with, but that's that there's a sort of a measure, reasonable measure
Yeah.
where they're beneficial. And when we think that the only way to get things done is to give them a
It's
screen.
by them having a
Yeah.
screen, yes. So it's not really
Yes.
a way to connect. It's just more so a tool for them to not, bother or, interfere, with the work that we think we need to get done. So and I
Exactly. What
look.
happens is we until usually toddlers are so enthusiastic. All they want to
Mhm.
do is learn
Yes,
from you, copy you, be with
yes,
you,
yes.
take over those chores.
Hmm.
And what we do, and it's very easy to do. I've got a toddler who's super enthusiastic about housework at the moment, a 2-year-old who just wants to
Yes,
do everything, the dangerous
everything.
stuff, yes. And what we do, to an extent, it can't be helped. We distract them to get things done. And then we get
Hmm.
into that's a pattern. They will very soon understand, okay, this is not for me. Blocks are for me, screens are for me.
Nothing
The
else.
housework is not for me.
It's not for
This
me.
is, yeah, and this is actually quite weird and Western. There are
Yes.
loads of societies where parents see the meaning, because there's so much meaning in this phase of life when they want to learn and copy you.
Yes.
The meaning is literally they learn those life skills so
Yes.
that even as 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they can do real stuff. They can be really helpful.
Hmm.
So that if there's another sibling of them, especially if we're thinking in terms of those hunter-gatherer societies, some of them still survive until today. People live in a community, and a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and definitely a 10-year-old will be helping with the chores, will be helping with younger siblings.
Yes.
And I'm not saying, yeah, and I'm not saying pile the work on them, but this gives gives them so much. This really empowers them,
Hmm.
and there's so much dignity when they are autonomous with these things.
Yes. Hmm.
and when they know they have a place in the community,
Of course.
but we lose so much of that. So we sort of sideline them. We do
Hmm.
everything ourselves.
Yes.
We're at breaking point, and what we discover when they reach the age when we in the West think, oh, this is the time when a kid should start doing chores. So I don't know, 7, 10, 13,
Yes.
whatever that age is for you. Well, but they aren't doing anything. And I'm doing everything here. And that's the story that gets it into your heads. And that's a really toxic one because it's a story of
Hmm.
resentment. We've been
Yes.
doing
Oh my gosh.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And whose fault is it that they aren't doing anything? They've never
Yeah.
been taught to. They've been told many, many times that this is not, that the kitchen, shall we say, is not their place,
It
you
is not their
know?
place. Yes. That they are
Yeah.
that they are that their help isn't needed, and it's not, and it's almost
Yeah.
not wanted, when you get into that model of, I have to get everything done by, X amount of time, or X, I have to get this done. It's like, don't, there's a clear separation. So, and maybe the words aren't said, but the attitudes do show, do say, this is my space, I need to get this done, like, be out of
Mm-hmm.
it, almost. So it reminded me of the when you said hunt gather. There's a book. Is it Hunt
Can't
Gather
get a parent.
Parent? Yes, I
Oh,
loved her
yes.
book.
That's
um
beautiful. That was a massive inspiration for
mhm,
us.
mhm.
Yes,
I
the book is absolutely beautiful if you're um curious. It explores the Mayan community, the
Yes.
Hadzabe, and the Inuit,
Mhm.
and um Michael Michaeline Ducliffe. She
Yes.
writes beautifully about how those helpful kids are raised from toddlerhood. And then she gives also sort of the prescription for our Western kids. Um, so, as I say, this was such an inspiration for us. But we kind of took it through the lens of attachment as well, because a
Yes.
lot of her suggestions are sort of behaviorist, we
Mhm.
found. And a very important thing is to, when you're teaching kids, well, anything, but in this case, housework, is not to leverage the relationship against.
Based on that. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
is not to give this message that sort of you're only acceptable to me if you're doing housework, and
Yes.
if not, then and or not to go, because that our conditioning is to go towards carrot and stick, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
rewards and punishments, sticker charts,
Yes.
and there's not a single sticker chart has been harmed in the creation of housework for children. This is not the approach we take because we do not find it effective, and research does not find it effective in the long run.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's not the same as having a rota. If a rota helps your family and you have all the children who understand it, that's great. But yeah, so our motivation was to create something that where a relationship would be at the forefront, as
Mhm.
well as autonomy and motivation, and giving kids this autonomy and sort of creating space for it,
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
because this is an art in itself, you know.
Yeah, it really is it's a big step, because there's a lot of adjustment that has to do, at least, from our journey. I could say that, things didn't get done all at once, because when
Mm-hmm.
you open that space for, a toddler to come in and help cut the vegetables, or help, with the food, um, things do take a slower approach. Things take
Yes.
longer. There's a little bit more, more to clean up at the end, but the relationship and that inclusivity really, really shows up, though, because then they are constantly, at least on my end, my younger son, who, we started like our homeschool unschool journey when he was born. I have taken that approach a lot more. So it is very common for him to say, can I help you? Can I do this? To
Mhm,
come in
mhm.
and really take that ownership of the kitchen or anything else, whether it's taking the garbage can back into the house after, during garbage day, or just really helping with the groceries. And with my oldest son, who our journey began a little bit later, it's what I do now. It wasn't like he wasn't helping, but I know the space that I held for my younger son, I didn't hold for him, mostly because I wasn't home because I was working a lot more.
Yeah.
And my mom was there. And my mom's approach, we were born in Mexico. So our approach was my mom did everything for us.
Mhm,
And my
mhm.
mom would drop so tired at the end of the day because she had to cook 3 meals a day. She made homemade tortillas for almost 20 years, twice a day. Like
Wow.
yeah, she made a big batch in the morning and she made a big batch at night. And I remember my mom still talks about my dad would just come home from work and he would just sit down. He would just sit down and my mom would just do all the work, right? She cleaned the house, but um we were never asked or we were never included. My mom said, "You never wanted to help." I'm like,
Did I not?
yeah, I mean, I don't remember being asked, but I do remember my mom feeling that I was in her way. Like I felt that I was in her way,
Mm.
and I'm like, but I love that, the relationship that happens as a result of opening the space really, really like coats the family dynamics of inclusivity and to know that everyone has their part and everyone's contribution is worth it, in there. So I really love that, And then how do you guys, you come up with these concepts, the house, the relationship, how do you put it together in terms of, the tools, the creative process? What was that like for you guys?
So, in a way, um, this could be course about anything with the same approach,
Yes.
with the same approach of relationship first, as well as respect, making space for their own motivation to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Housework is there because it's in every family's life, unless
Yes.
they've got live-in help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, yeah, because this is a cause that is really close to my heart. When I found myself also did sort of most of the work and resenting it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It is beautiful when you think back on having this generous provider who made homemade tortillas twice a day. But it's like, if this is what she truly wanted, that is
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
And
I
it's
mean,
impossible to want it for
mhm.
every day for 20 years.
Yes, no, it definitely, and she still talks about it. I mean, if you know my mom's just such an amazing woman, and she's so smart, but she still talks about it. She felt the same way. She resented it, right? That she had to do all this
Yeah.
work all by herself, and yes, until finally, like it was a big moment when she said, "I'm not making tortillas anymore." Like after, like I said,
Mm,
almost 20 years, and everybody was like, oh, you know,
wow. How
and yeah, I mean, it was,
that's the thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Because we don't communicate it
Yes,
and until it's too late. And what I call too late is when you have when you're full of this resentment and you're
yes,
rebelling and I'm not doing it anymore. We don't communicate it early enough, respectfully enough, and effectively enough.
yes,
So then it comes as a surprise when we
yes,
suddenly unload on our teenager,
mhm,
like, you're not doing anything around here. What? Was I
yes,
supposed to?
yes.
Was I what? How do I even approach that? to know. So our course is in two parts. It's
Hmm.
one part is for parents of toddlers.
Hmm.
It's wonderful to start early. The other part is for parents of older children when it's too late to start early, but it's not too late to do something
No,
about it.
it really isn't though.
It
Mm.
really isn't. Yeah. And I love the research too. For example, there's the research of men who are helping, well, helping again, that is a tricky word. Then they're not helping around the house. They're doing their fair share of the housework, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there was a research, and only I think less than 50% of them were brought up to do that.
Hmm.
So it comes from understanding that, oh, there is my fair share in it, so I will. So it's not about, it's not about, it's not only about starting early.
Yes.
There can be ways to communicate. And it also doesn't mean that you should sort of, if you haven't got much love for housework or it's getting too much for you, you shouldn't always be, and there's no expectation that you will sort of be radiating joy around housework and
Hmm.
how wonderful it is. And sometimes my 8-year-old says to me, "Oh, Mom, we're the same, aren't we? We don't really like this housework, do we?" I'm like, "No, I'd much rather be doing something more fun. So let's get through this chore and get to the whatever fun thing we want to
Yeah.
do."
But there is that, but I love that because there's that common understanding that, in order for us to do something else, this has to get done, and it's
Exactly.
something that we both are aware that we are not enjoying, but for some reason or another, it just has to get done, And for some people, I know for me, space is really important. So when having a clean space and having a comfortable space, like an inspiring almost, is extremely important. And that's the one thing I always say. How do we start today? And it's always with a clean kitchen. Like it has the kitchen,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
order for even like for me to make the coffee in the morning, I have to have a clean kitchen in order to like get it started. But I love how you connect that without saying, oh, you should do it, or you should enjoy doing it when you yourself, are acknowledging that it's just not, yeah, it's not the best, but we're just gonna do it together and it'll be faster.
Exactly. And the thing is, if everyone's participating, then people will find what has most meaning for them. For example, for my husband, it's cooking. It's really, as he says, it's not a chore. He could cook every day, and he's still sort of exploring new recipes and so on. If I cooked every day, I'd be burnt out by the end of the week, and it would be just fish and chips,
Yes.
And but for example, I never sort of get tired of doing the laundry. It's kind of, I find satisfaction and meaning in it, in that
Hmm.
our clothes are clean and folded.
Yes.
And so everyone, and for others, laundry is a chore. So everyone finds something. Like my 8-year-old quite likes hoovering. He's like, "Oh yeah, that is." He can see the effect. It is working. So, and they say, the theory of motivation is that there are three components to it. It should be meaningful. To find our motivation,
Yes.
whether child or grown up, the activity should be A, meaningful, B,
Hmm.
we should have autonomy in it,
Okay.
and C, there's got to be a connection there, that we've got to relate to others through
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Yeah, which does sort of link it back to meaning. That can be part of the meaning. And housework really ticks all the boxes.
Hmm.
There's meaning in it. There's meaning in making dirty dishes clean,
Clean.
or
Hmm.
creating a meal, or I don't know, feeding your pet. Um, there is autonomy in it if we give it to them. So a lot of our course is helping parents to sort of breathe out a little bit. It will be imperfect. It's not, it might be imperfect. It
Yes.
will be.
Hmm.
Yes. Hold back the temptation to go in and do it better, do it for them and
Yes.
micromanage.
Hmm.
Yes, and see that there is a connection with to others in this, because it can be a service, it can be an
Yes.
act of caring.
Hmm.
And I would argue that if one person isn't doing everything and is completely burnt out, then it's much easier to find the meaning.
Yeah.
Because what's burnout is the loss of meaning.
Oh,
Yeah, when we can't feel it anymore and it doesn't help us anymore to see that meaning, you
yeah.
know?
Yes. I mean, in the house is just, I don't know. I feel like in Western society, it's like, you wear the badge of being a good mother by how drain and how close to complete burnout you are. There's this, I feel like there's this like this badge of honor by saying, I do all these things, right? I drive the kids to school, I take all these activities, and then I come home and I still make a meal. And, but there's this like, almost like, I don't know, it's just like feels like the more burned out you are, the better mother you are. And I'm here, like Olga said, this always falls on the mother. And I'm saying, the better mother you are, because I
Yeah.
don't I don't see it as something that the father role always also, I'm not saying it's not
Yeah,
important, but I'm really, really, separating how mothers are seen and how the more burnout we have, the better mothers we are. And
and that is such a strong narrative.
yes, and really the housework, the responsibility of the household, it's still, it's a big part of that burnout because no one else, where the narrative that we get is that we are supposed to do everything. Of course, it's self-paced. So you, as a parent, you don't have to go through the whole thing, but you can go back to get little nuggets of information whenever it's needed. And because I don't think that's something that you can change overnight,
No.
yeah, to like kind of let go of that thought that you should be everything and to just openly say, oh, yeah, here, come help me. Would you like to help? That's the way I approach things. I ask my 4-year-old will say, can I help? And my older son, I just ask, would you like to help? And sometimes he says yes, and sometimes he says no. But I do get a lot of support when he sees me struggling with, bags or something. He says, can I help you with something? Do you need help? Is there something I can do? So I really, by opening that space, then that motivation or that participation gets enhanced and they get to see that there is a place for them and for them to help out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yes, and this narrative though that the mother is the one doing everything,
Yes.
exhausted, it's the base that maternal sacrifice.
Hmm.
How you've got to be superhuman to not then put it on your kids.
Yes.
I've sacrificed so much for you.
For you. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, and it's a heavy burden to live with. I don't know. It's actually something that burden is something that so many people can
Hmm.
um, identify with. But what if by bringing the kids into the housework, we would avoid that? We would all have more joy, that everything would be more intentional. I choose to be here.
Yes.
I choose to do my part.
Hmm.
I'm not, I'm finding enjoying it, and it's not anyone else's fault that I'm doing it,
Yes.
because others are doing their bits.
Yes.
And it's also keeping it realistic. It's a wonderful course for homeschooling or unschooling parents like yourself, because there's, as just as you said, there's okay, if we're going to stay at home and uh, there's no sort of, school is your 6 hour daycare after all.
Mhm.
But if we are all at home all the time, then it's much, much more sustainable to be splitting the work.
Yeah.
And yeah, and of course, homeschooling parents are often more open to the idea of and have more time to teach those life skills. So if your kid is at school, this is something wonderful to do during the holidays. I think the school holidays are perfect time to start so that you have already something to go back to when you only have sort of 4 hours a day with your child. And
Yes.
it's also a lovely time to connect too if you're chopping those vegetables for dinner together. The conversations you have
Yeah.
are the best. Yeah, it's that time when it's just
Yeah.
easy to talk.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's really great.
they really are. Those conversations are really the best. So yeah, I do have to say, from the unschooling perspective, life skills, the way we approach them is, because it's part of our everyday, right? It's just like, you live in your house and, there's laundry, there's dishes, but there's also that connection, that extra connection of having some sort of like just feeling from having a clean house, how it connects, how it all
Mm.
connects really. So it really, really helped us out. Like I said, I wish I had this at the beginning because when we started, I was like, I spent all this money in curriculum, that would show us how to, I mean, I don't know how to do, there was like, I don't know if there was one specific for housework, but we had all this, curriculum for like telling the hour, like the clock. And I'm like, well, there's a clock on the wall right there, you know? So
I know.
so it just made sense. So the practicality of it all was there. I was just holding on. I wanted to take all the responsibility because I felt that it
Mm.
made me a better parent. And I felt that it made me a better mother by taking all this and the housework, the curriculum when we were doing that, the activities, and I felt that if I took it all in, that I was just a better parent. It even like it made me feel better. But then I realized that it wasn't just about me. Like I couldn't, if I wasn't happy with it, then I needed to say something and include other people in it. Allow everyone to follow have their own role in helping me, create this different lifestyle that we now have. And it just made so much sense. So thank you for creating that. And now how does the course, after you finished it, how does it impact your own personal lives? Because you both, you and Joe, like you said, have small children. So how does it come alive in your own house?
Oh, this is a great question. I'm just sort of, I wrote a course that I need myself.
Yes, I love
And
that.
I've been living every part of the course. So as I said, I've got a toddler and an 8-year-old.
Mhm.
And so I'm living both parts of the course with the
Yes,
toddler. I would say I'm trying to start telling, I'm not trying anything. He's such a storm of I'll do it.
yes,
He's absolutely unstoppable. All I'm doing is not stopping him so much
yes,
and
yes,
just offering a bit of scaffolding when he needs it. But he's becoming frighteningly capable at his
yes. Uh-huh.
tender age of 2 and 4 months. And with my eldest, this is actually the more challenging part.
Hmm.
So yeah, with the toddlers, just don't stop them and support them as much as you can.
As much as you can, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but with my 8-year-old, who I did stop, it turns
Yes.
out, as a toddler, and we did live through this rift that his life was just basically Lego and
Separate
his
from the rest of the
imagination.
house.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The play is beautiful. But I was already starting to see that pattern in myself
Hmm.
of doing everything and starting to resent it and starting to put it on him. And I was like, this is not
Yes.
something I will just work through by working on myself. We need to change this dynamic. It's not serving us, it's not serving him. And starting to bring him in, and every now and then I screw it up, and I sit there and I'm like, and I wrote that it needs to be an invitation. It's okay to say no. And I just sit there,
Hmm. Yes.
find my deep breath. It's okay. We make mistakes and we go back to it, and it's okay. We don't that we're not screwing everything up forever.
Yes.
It's okay that I apologize, and we sort of move on and we try again, and it works out. It works out. One thing I do find, one of the wonderful benefits of having kids who know how to do the housework is they see the work, and once they see when you've done the work,
Yes.
like we'll like when he's at school and we will, for example, clean the house, and he'll come back and he's like, wow, that's beautiful, you did it, mom, well, thank you. I'm like, wow.
They
Okay.
notice. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
quite rare, to notice this stuff.
Exactly. I love what you said about needed to be. So, two things about apologizing, and not
Mm,
putting it on him. And then about having it be an invitation. Because I think that's really important for autonomy. And if you have older children, because that's what happened to us. My oldest son is 10, and there really was a separation of housework, anything else from his own life. So
mhm.
I didn't want to put it on him that whenever I needed help or whenever I wanted help, that he say no. Because, I mean, for the longest time, he wasn't invited into this dynamic. And here all
Right.
of a sudden, I'm like, oh, you should help me. And he was like, no.
Should I? Yeah.
I'm like, should I? So, but by doing that, by allowing that invitation, their autonomy, it's if their answer is respected, by saying, no, and not necessarily, they're perhaps doing something else. Their autonomy right there is being respected as to what they want to do. And then
Mhm.
they see the results. And if you don't put it on them, then they see what happens. And then slowly, or at least that has been our experience, it comes back full circle. When you
Mhm.
perhaps invite
Mhm.
again, and that invitation feels more open, feels without judgment and without expectations. Hey, do you want to help me? And then they say yes, and sometimes they say no. So it
Yeah.
goes both ways. But knowing that, respecting that autonomy and that answer, I mean, it's a huge start, I think, when, like you said, when you have like a little bit older children and we are working on the patterns that we what brought into this relationship.
Yeah.
So, mhm,
And that's our stuff. We come full circle too. Yeah, it's just such a story of growth.
yes. So many, yeah, so much growth in that. And what has been, so you guys have a community of parents, right? Like you have like a weekly or a monthly parent support group.
Not at the moment. It's not
Okay,
running at the moment. Yes, we have one-to-one support.
okay,
So we've got consultations, and Joe's offering therapy, and we're growing our collection of webinars.
okay. I love
And
that.
we've
I love
got
that. And what has been the response, from other people that have been through the course? What has been are there any aha moments? I know there were quite a few for us. I went through the course maybe a few months ago, right? When you
Mhm.
first came out. And keep in mind that, for any of our viewers, my journey with homeschooling, unschooling.
Mhm.
It started in like during the pandemic. So I went through a rapid, how do I say it? I don't A rapid growth in terms of, changing my own conditioning.
Right.
So there was a lot of transformations there though. But the lifestyle aspect that includes, the housework and the dynamics of it, they were still in the process. It was a slower process for me because I
Mhm.
had to go through a lot of my own work. So this integration was very slow, like the whole of it was kind of slower, but it was more organic, right? It was more organic. So, what are other aha moments that people have had, with going through the course?
So I think one of my favorites is about, I think I'll go to my favorite statistics. Uh, there's When we were kids, between 80 and 90% of us chipped in with the housework. We were made to.
Hmm.
At the moment, it's down to 25%.
Oh, wow.
So just as we became parents, that number dropped completely. So something happened there, and I'm so curious about what happened there. Why did we, as parents, decide our kids shouldn't be doing it? And I think one of the answers is the way we were brought into the housework was often through shaming
Yes.
that came out of that resentment.
Yes.
And a lot of us parents who have decided to be gentle parents, conscious parents, cycle breakers, to not put all this stuff on our kids. We've decided no more shaming, no more conflicts about housework and blaming. I'll do everything myself.
Mm.
So one of my favorite aha moment from someone who took our course was, it's possible to
Yes.
bring kids into the chores
Yeah.
without the shaming bit.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Hmm.
So it's breaking away from this sort of duality. I either become the evil mother
Yes.
who makes kids do it, or, well, it's three, or I pay, that's another popular option, or I do everything.
Yes. Yes. It is going from one extreme to the other, you know?
Yes.
Yes. It is definitely going from one extreme to the other. I think it happens a lot too in the transition to unschooling. It's like you go from like an authoritarian, it's what I say goes,
Hmm.
to, and then you shift that. A lot of people, a lot of the transition periods is you shift that to your children, which is whatever they say go, whatever
Yeah.
they say goes. And then in by shifting that, going to the other extreme, then
Hmm.
your life gets kind of like all of a sudden you lost that power that you had as a parent, in terms of, in that paradigm, the authoritarian, but then you shift it to someone else who
Mm.
never really had the opportunity. So it really creates the a balance, um you lose that, so finding the middle ground, in the possibility of it all, of everyone working together, I think that's where the happiness lies.
I believe it. I really do.
Yeah,
It's
because
possible.
it really is possible though. But definitely not the shaming. I love that you said that that's kind of where we came from. So we just
Mhm.
don't want to go through it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, yeah. Did you do any kind of work like as you guys like work on building the course, and going through the materials and reliving, perhaps some of your experiences? Was there any other work that you guys, or things that came up for you, from your own personal experience, that maybe you had forgotten, about
Yeah.
your childhood, and how housework was, the narrative that you lived, as far as, it being part of a family and the housework that's included in doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I so I grew up in Ukraine, and I kind of lived that, but being as a kid, I lived that being included in the housework and feeling part of it, and sort of just doing chores alongside my mom and grandma. That was
Mm-hmm.
joyful. And then school is such a large part of it. School really pulls kids in, and it's all education, education, education. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, I'm thinking a lot about it now. It's like we are preparing kids for a life that they won't have, a life of just intellectual work where they will never need to cook themselves a meal, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I went, and yeah, that happened to me. And then when I was a teenager, those housework battles started when my mom would do this whole shaming, resentful
Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
and I would be like, "Wow, where did that come from? That is out of the blue." And those housework battles rock so many relationships
Mhm.
during teenagehood when we need as few sort of obstacles and rocks as possible, because there will be loads either way. We need something to rely on. So maybe that's with our teenagers, maybe something to rely on is, as we say again, chopping vegetables for dinner.
Yeah.
And that is a routine where we can find togetherness, or putting dishes away after a meal,
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
something we don't have to battle about anymore.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, well, my story was different, and many stories are very different.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and I, just as I described, I swore I will never do that to my kids. I will never be shaming them for their like untidy bedrooms and all that. And until I discovered I was at the start of exactly the same patterns,
Yeah.
doing everything for them and starting to resent them for it. I was
Hmm.
like, right, we need to do something about it. And
Yeah.
I've got the knowledge, so I will figure it out.
Yes. I
I'm
love
still
that.
figuring it out, and I hope our course helps parents to do that.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful story though, because it really just speaks to the amount of work that we have to do on ourselves. Obviously, our stories, all of our stories, our narratives, are very, very different. But I think by acknowledging what we went through and finding, finding I don't want to say, well, joy or just knowing that there's something to be done, so we don't pass it
Hmm.
on to our children, then I think it's just such a beautiful start. Um, Learning never ends. It just comes up in different waves of things that happened in the past, and then you got to work through them, right? Like you guys are doing right now. And then by putting this amazing course, because it really, honestly, like I think I've said it many, many times, but I wish I had it when we started. I think even as a parent, when we did Montessori school, for a
Hmm.
few years. So even back then in the Montessori, method, there's a lot of that. They have
Oh
like the
yeah.
little vegetables and they have the little cutting boards and they make, the soup and all of that. And but he wasn't real soup. But sometimes they had like real food and stuff.
Yeah,
So it really misses that connection, like you were saying, with the real benefit of doing it in your community, within your
exactly.
community. Yes.
And
Yes.
kids are hungry for the real stuff.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, most
And
definitely.
why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, because the real stuff, that's what the real world is about though. So, it's a course for everyone. Doesn't matter whether you're in school, homeschooling, unschooling, whatever part of your journey you're on. as long as you're a parent, then this is a course that will help you, to kind of just grow. And just like Olga said, without shaming the kids, the course doesn't shame you as a parent either. It
Hmm.
quite gives you the support because often the you're doing it wrong type of thing kind of puts people like, oh, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Oh my goodness, I'm doing it wrong. But there is no wrong. The course is just very supportive, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it as well. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Julieta. That's lovely to hear.
Yeah, thank you so much. So before we close up, what are you guys working on right now? I think you said just one-on-one support. What else are you guys working on?
Yeah, so we are putting together a collection of webinars.
Okay.
Um, as we record them, they're free to attend. And we love having guests because it just sort of makes it more fun and
Okay.
the questions sort of deepen the experience. So at the moment, next one is going to be about kids saying no,
Mm.
resistance.
Oh,
Yes, it's a big one. It's an
yeah.
unavoidable one. Yes,
Yeah,
and
it's a big one.
what it triggers in us,
Mm-hmm.
how to work with it,
Yes.
how to get in the lead there. Um, yeah, so that's coming up, and we've got our podcast. We're still
Mm-hmm.
working on. I think that the whole idea that Housework for Children is supposed to be the first part of the course that is all about making parenting sustainable, as I say, and
Yes.
it's about crossing into each other's territory. So this is an invitation for kids to cross into our territory with the
Yeah.
housework. But
And to
to
open up.
bridge that separation, yes. And I think, yeah, we'll do more in
Yes,
that vein.
yeah, I really like that though. And for anyone, whoever's part of our unschooling community, we do have a code for you guys to get 15% off. So you can use the code unschooling as you check out on their website, and then you will be able to receive 15% off for you to get started and kind of open up that space and then just enjoy the daily stuff that we all have to do, whether it's laundry, dishes, making dinner. Yes. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you, Olga and Joy, who's not here,
Oh, thank you so much, Julieta.
for
I
being
loved
with
talking
us.
to you.
And what are your links for your work?
So it's www.thecaringinstinct.com for everything,
Okay.
really.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It really, I mean, just listening to the creative process and how it really translates into your everyday life. It really is like it makes a connection for other parents to also see that, because you're not separate from the work.
No, no, definitely not. Living the work every day. Oh, thank you, Julieta, for your kind words. And of course, the interview with you is one of my favorites. So if you're curious about that, that's on the Caring Instinct podcast.
Yeah.
Unschooling, simply called
Yes.
Unschooling. Yes, which is, yeah. So I love our partnership.
Yes, it was one of my first interviews too,
Was
to
it?
to sharing about the journey. And then I think I listened to it not too long ago, actually. And it was interesting to see also how much growth we have done
Really?
from that moment, from where we were at that moment, because
Ah,
and just the learning never ends, really. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're interested in, whatever your life revolves around, there's always some learning to do. You're
mm,
always learning something. So we have definitely learned a lot.
wow. Well, I love these long relationships because now we can invite you again and
Yes, I would
see
love to
how
be
it
part of it.
develops.
Yeah,
That'd
but
be
I
lovely.
love it. So for anyone, thecaringinstinct.com, and then you can find our course there. You can also find a course on our website, theunschoolingLifestyle.com. Also
Yeah.
in our forum, the course, I made a post and then I have a short video that it goes a little bit more in depth into a little
Mhm.
bit of our journey and how it helped us. But in really, in short, is that I wish I had this when we started, because
Mhm.
it would have saved us so much heartache. Nonetheless, we learn something new every day, and
And
we
it's
have
never
grown
too
from it.
late.
Yes, so it's definitely never too late to invite your children and to open up the space for them and to be part of the community that they are already part of. So be
Yeah,
more, yes,
everyone benefits.
yes, most
Really do. The
definitely.
kids and the parents.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Olga, for being here. We really appreciate your time. And for anyone else out there, please remember that your time is precious. I hope you're making it count. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you, Olga.
Bye. Thank you.